everybody. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us for Designing a Sustainable Future. I'm Ashley Gorey, and this is Andy Teo. He is our creative director, and I'm the CEO of Gorey. We wanted to run this webinar to share with you some of our learnings, both from a global perspective, but also from our own journey, of which we, just a little on Gorey, we are an industrial design firm who specialize in retail, fixtures, displays, full retail environments. And we were actually asked by Shell International to help them design their waste and recycling receptacles for their forecourt, where you fill up your gas station, so that we could be separating our waste at the point of collection. And it was there that we went to a couple of sorting stations and to see how the supply chain, how the flow of waste comes from point of collection through to the recycling system. And it was there that we realized that only 9% of what is actually collected is diverted from landfill. And we got really, frustrated as an individual who cares very much about the environment. We asked ourselves as designers, how could we do something different? How could we create change? And that's where our division of Unwasted was created. Unwasted is, mid-century modern design furniture made from recyclable and circular products, so that we are trying to divert as much waste from landfill as possible, but also putting the opportunity for the customer to vote with their own dollars. And so that was the ethos of what started us down this journey. But we wanted to share with you some of the other ways that we can make change in sustainability in terms of our own practices that are realistic. So Andy and I are going to walk you through this session. It's a bit interactive, so we hope you'll play along. And from there, we will get started. So we're going to run some polls. And the first question is, how important is sustainability to your organization? So you'll see some polls pop up. So please help us answer. And they are anonymous, of course. So take your time.
And I'll just add to that. So, don't feel obligated, but the more answers we get back from you guys, the more we learn about this topic, but also potentially how we can step forward in the future and what topics we can tackle. So, we do appreciate your participation in these polls. Great. It looks like we're getting more answers in. So it looks like we're neck and neck for how important is sustainability to your organization. It looks, this is promising. Sustainability is at least a factor, even if it's carried out or not. But again, guys, we do thank you for your answers as we're discussing realistic sustainability. Throughout this seminar, what we're going to be learning about is perhaps how we adapt to changing shopper preferences, but also changes both big and small that we can affect in our own organizations.
Yes. And also, please use the chat function. We do have a question and answer section at the end, but we do appreciate your feedback along the way. Mm-hmm. So with this session, we're going to evaluate three topics. One is the Resale Revolution. The second is extended producer responsibility. And the third is offsetting our carbon footprint. Now, coming from our perspective, we design and build retail stores. And so we are looking at this from the brand's perspective, from the retailer's perspective, but also from the customer's perspective. So first, we'll start out with the shifting consumer behavior around resale acceptance. So Gen Z is leading the way with regards to sustainability. I think we all, as we've shown in that poll, sustainability is important to us. And as brands and organizations, it's also important to us knowing that we need to implement change. But I think the question of how is the bigger hurdle for us to get over. With the Gen Zs, they are trailblazers in technology and fashion, but they do perceive themselves. They are reverse conspicuous consumers. And that means admire me for how much not how much I spend, but how much I save. And if we're not focusing on this as a marketplace, we're going to be excluding a large portion of the population. And the other risk to brands and retailers is if you don't get involved in the sustainable or resaleable marketplace, then somebody else will. So they're going to be able to define and articulate what your brand means instead of you controlling that yourselves. The resale revolution is a huge marketplace. On average, about $4,500. We hold about $4,500 worth of resaleable goods within our own homes, and major brands are getting on board. We have examples of that in the next slide. It is a massive market, $5 billion in resale sneaker market alone. I am not a sneaker junkie, but I have seen the YouTube shows, and it's pretty epic how interested individuals are in that. And this isn't just the Kijijis of the world. Obviously, that's been around for a while. We're really starting to move into this category as a true marketplace. And brands need to start thinking about how they're going to apply that to their own markets. So obviously, Apple's been doing this very well for a number of years. As I said, Nike's starting to get into this practice, but it's not just the high-end brands. It is the entry-level brands as well that are moving in this direction. And as I said, in terms of those luxury elements, if you're not controlling the narrative, somebody else will. And so it is quite important for those brands to be getting in control of this conversation. One of the things that was a takeaway for us was, what are the guidelines to do this successfully? And really, it's about creating that friction-free process. We've seen quite a lot of pushback on sustainability because in some instances, it does create friction in terms of what customers or brands are and the cost. And we talked about that earlier in terms of what we are used to doing. Now, Patagonia has done an excellent job of this. On their site, you'll see that they do also have their Worn Wear tab. And that's essentially their platform for selling their circular products. And they do it in a really interesting way where they're blurring the lines between what is new and what is used merchandise. You can see the trade-in product with a price slash on the original pricing so that you can see what the savings that you are able to achieve by purchasing straight through Patagonia, owning their own narrative, but also balancing their sustainability and profitability goals and keeping the customer in their ecosystem. This is a really, really good example. I think Patagonia, like Apple, is sort of the quintessential example for best-in-class customer experience for retail. Patagonia is hands down the best example for sustainability. If you want to read a great book on how to integrate sustainability into your business practice and your purpose, the Patagonia book by CEO, Let My People Go Surfing, is a wonderful example. So with that, we're going to launch you into another poll.
Great. So it looks like we have a few people who love resale. So like Ashley mentioned before, there's the Kijijis, Craigslist, Facebook marketplace of the world. But what we're speaking about specifically here is how brands are tailoring their experiences towards Gen Z preferences, which is, I am proud of what I save. This is how I do it. And they almost wear it like a badge. Anecdotally, I will say, one of these two plants behind me, they are both real. One of them was rescued from Facebook Marketplace. The other was purchased from a greenhouse I would challenge you. Don't respond, but I would challenge you to guess which is which. And this is important these days because in terms of preferences, and as we get these answers back, perhaps cleanliness in the word cloud there for the third poll question, um, at least for me, has come up. So being able to have an indistinguishable difference. Oh, it says that the poll has been disabled. That's interesting. Thank you for your response. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder, let me take a look into that. Okay.
Thanks, Andy. So I think one of the,
Yeah.
while Andy's looking into that, one of the interesting things that Patagonia has done as well is that they have integrated the brand loyalty. So you can get credits on the clothing that you circulate back into their system and apply that towards their new apparel. So again, this is just a really great example of that, cradle to grave scenario for successful resale, successful sustainability. I just returned from Europe and for a conference on global in-store execution. It's a really interesting excuse me. It's a really interesting organization. There's about 17 companies from 17 countries around the world, and the number one topic today is sustainability. Why this is so important, and Andy's going to talk to us a little bit more about extended producer responsibility. And what does that mean, not only for brands, but also for retailers, as well as those who are producing in-store marketing, in-store executions, is that there is now coming more certificates and responsibility for reporting how your components are made and how they're going to be evaluated and whether or not you can execute with what you're producing. And this is really important. Retailers such as Currys, which is a comparable example to Best Buy in North America, they will not allow you to have a display in their retail environment unless it comes with a sustainability passport. And what that means is, and we'll show you an example of that, what is the end of life for your display? How is it going to be assembled? And how is it going to come apart and then be recycled and reported on after that? So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Andy, where he's going to take us through some of the principles of extended producer responsibility.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ash. So just a little update for the individuals not able to participate in the polls. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we can definitely send you the questions after this session because we'd love to hear your feedback. So apologies for that. For everybody else, it looks like we are able to participate in polls. So again, thank you for your responses. So please, for individuals that are not able to participate in the polls right now, please send us an email. We'd love to hear your feedback. All right. So extended producer responsibility. What this large paragraph here means is that brands, as they are most in control of their own products as well as services, they would be the ones to best guide the consumer into an experience that most or has a least environmental impact from their products. Meaning, if you are a brand, it is now your responsibility, perhaps more responsibility depending on where you are regionally. But there are rules or will be rules in place determining how much you have to lean in to be able to ensure that the consumer of your product is able to dispose or recycle your product responsibly. Okay. So here for EPR, you're seeing a couple principles of end producer responsibility. So, there are recycling and take back programs. Mostly it is either material or a financial play, and that's what the policies are based on. On the next page here, we will see, just based on one of the brand names that we know and love very well, just a couple examples of some of their own EPR policies that they have in place here. Now, as Ashley mentioned, I am the creative director at Gory, meaning, we love to design, and how EPR relates to us can be seen on the next slide here, where, a small change by Coca-Cola's part here was to attach the bottle cap to the bottle. Now, The reason why I get so excited about a topic like this and about such a small change like this is because the user experience is so vastly changed by a little bit of extra plastic, which is then recyclable at the end of the consumer experience, right? So what you're seeing here is that the bottle cap is attached to the bottle, so you don't lose it. But you as a consumer, when you're done drinking your beverage, because the cap is already attached, it's much more likely that the whole bottle and the bottle cap be recycled together. Now, Ashley, I believe when we were having this discussion, you said when you were over in Europe, this is table stakes. They're doing this quite commonly over there, right?
Yeah, this is common practice. And I think what many of us might not know is that anything smaller than the size of a credit card can't go through the recycling machine. So they typically end up going to waste. So connecting it like this allows for it to become part of the larger recycling infrastructure or supply chain.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ash. So what you're seeing here on this page is a pilot program that Gori was working with in terms of developing, how we can reduce waste and how we can increase reusable cups, the use of reusable cups amongst the population in Vancouver. So Gori worked with a company called Return It and Tim Hortons over in Vancouver to launch this pilot program. And essentially what it is you put a deposit on a reusable cup when you purchase a beverage, and there is a QR code on the bottom of the cup. Once you scan the QR code and deposit the reusable cup into the bin, you then get a deposit back into an online account. So, there is a benefit to the consumer as well. I believe it was a percentage off the purchase price of the beverage. What we wanted to do, Gori specifically, was to design something that was easy to use, friction-free, but also recognizable so that you weren't searching for where you have to redeposit your cups. Now, consultatively, Gori worked with Return It to be able to lay out how the process would look like, what the bins would look like, but also guide in terms of communication. Just because we know that, when you do have something that looks like something else, in this case, where we have a returnable cup station placed beside garbage cans, you really want to make sure that you are clearly defining the use case of the unit so that you don't have contamination between different products. And that was essential just because, our aim is to not just recycle, but ensure that what we are recycling is only recyclable material. I know that that can be a lot and it sounds simple, but when you have people that are walking by, rushing through the TTC, going through the subway, your messaging has to be very clear. And that was a great learning point. In terms of the success of the pilot program, it was actually received very well throughout Tim Hortons, but also on the public streets of Vancouver, both inside and outside, to the point where the pilot program has now expanded in terms of reach.
I think this is a really good example, and it's a trial. It's a pilot because we're changing consumer behaviors. It isn't. I mean, we've become so comfortable as being consumers, and everything being very easy. And so, I'm sure most of the individuals who are on this call, you're here because you believe in sustainability, and that you probably are using your own reusable cups. In this instance, the reusable cup had a QR code on the bottom, and it was a deposit system similar to the milk bottle, your milk bottle delivery at the beginning of the week or beginning of the morning, and that you would put a deposit on that cup, and then it would get returned when you return the bottle. So it's not a concept that is unknown to us. It's just that we become so comfortable with a takeaway scenario. And so this is trying to return people back to that understanding. The cups are industrially washed and then circulated back into the system. This pilot was run with A&W, Starbucks, and Tim Hortons, but we're going to show a positive and a negative. In this example, Vancouver has seen success, and they're moving forward with the program and implementing it into additional locations. But in Ontario, that wasn't the case. In Ontario, Tim Hortons partnered with Loop and created these reusable containers for both food and also takeaway drinks. But I think the issue is that the customer, this pilot was not successful. It didn't continue on, and it is interesting to see why. And as we start to transition, or if we as brands and retailers want to get customers on board, it is going to take time. It took time to move us away from the plastic bags. It took time for us to get comfortable, and then all of a sudden you remove it entirely. In this instance, I think it was an amazing idea, but in BC, they're more familiar with returnable programs than I think we are here in the Ontario marketplace. So this is just an example in terms of when we're designing programs for our brands and for retail, that we make sense, that we make it so that we're implementing it in smaller bite-sized steps. And that's why we also, phrased this presentation as realistic, sustainable goals. We have to take one step forward in order to take these giant leaps that we want to achieve in order to reach, carbon, to the impact that our carbon footprint will have. So this is an example of when it works, when it doesn't work. And hopefully, we're revisiting this program in the Ontario marketplace for Tim Hortons. We are going to well, I don't know, hot coffee in a plastic cup. We'll see. Maybe there's other alternatives out there. Yeah. But okay, moving on to another program. And again, these sustainable programs that we're showing to you are not a singular item. There are multiple chains to these supply chain changes. This was another program that we were very proud to work with Cadillac Fairview on for the sorting stations in their newly renovated malls. We are going to show you a new tool. So there are a lot of certificates that have come out. B Corp is one of them, which is incredible. We are trying to work towards B Corp for our Wasted brand. I see Andrea's on the call. She is BMAT, and she's just achieved that B Corp status. There's a number of different certificates that we can be working towards. And to be frank, the customers are now starting to look for that. It is becoming a sign of what's required. As I mentioned earlier, the certificates or passports confirming or reporting the quality and sustainability of what is being produced is happening in other areas of the world and will happen in North America in some time. So in this example, we did work with Cadillac Fairview for their new sorting stations. Cadillac Fairview has employed concierge so that when you take the tray to these sorting stations, they are responsible for the sorting. And why that's so important is contamination. The number one reason why waste does not get diverted from landfill is because of contamination. And so Cadillac Fairview has invested in having these concierge who sort the products from the dining hall into individual, into proper waste streams. We manufactured this program for them, utilizing a program called Sustain, which allows for us to provide the details. And Andy will talk a little bit more about this, but this unit that you see here is made from 65% recycled quartz, 85% recycled metal, and 60% recycled plastics. And this is a point of differentiation for Cadillac Fairview. They can stand as a property manager and say, we are not only making change with regards to our entire infrastructure for for waste management, but also that we are, procuring and building out of recycled and sustainable materials. With that, I'll ask Andy to take us through the Sustain tool. There you go, Andy.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So the Sustain tool, in a nutshell, it takes the data from your existing design or your proposed design and enters it into a program that then measures it against these 6 categories below: design, supply chain logistics, materials processing, packaging, delivery logistics, and recycled content, along with end of life. So the reason why we have these 6 categories is because it provides a large picture view of how eco-friendly the design is, and not just the materials itself, which is a little bit more typical. So when you enter all of your data in, what you can see here is that it provides the data back, not just in a web diagram, but also realistic numbers comparing between A and B. And what you're seeing here between the blue and the purple is what would happen if you enter two different the data in for two different designs. You have a direct A/B comparison along with the breakdown of how environmentally friendly each of the designs are. So this is something that Gori can also prepare in terms of an information package as well. If you do have any sort of design that you're working on or have worked on, this is something that we can also put through the Sustain tool so that we can identify exactly the key parameters of how eco-friendly that program is or was. So, you can see here on the right side of the page here, carbon footprint, disposal, water. These are all different elements and parameters that are measured against, but also where information is provided, just in case you wanted a little bit more of a finite breakdown. Again, what I will say is that the more clear data or more information you have regarding your design or your program, the more, the better fleshed out the data you will receive will be. Okay.
Okay, on to our final topic, which is offsetting our carbon footprint. In this example, there are a number of organizations who are taking the lead with regards to corporate responsibility. Over 2,600 companies have responded to the call to make this change. Walmart has made a goal of 100% renewable energy by 2035, and IKEA has committed to producing as much renewable energy as it uses by 2030. These dates are coming up, and so there are many organizations who are making these goals and making changes to achieve them and including them in their marketing. These are now things to be standing behind and to be promoting. They are a point of differentiation, especially with this new customer set coming up. One of the challenges to the examples that Andy shared within Sustain was that it does come at a cost, but I think the cost could be much greater. And I think the cost could be losing your customers if they don't see that you're moving in that direction as well. So while it is a large infrastructure change for some of the things that we're recommending, it is going to be important to that new customer base who's coming up, and next the alpha generation.
Mm-hmm. So you.
Go ahead, Andy.
Actually, thanks. So I was just going to mention just here, you see the Royale example here, just the imagery. I would challenge you to walk down your grocery store aisle where you do have competing products. And you'll see this when you pay a little bit closer attention, you'll see quite a bit of products. There's Nestle as well, there's Cadbury, products that perhaps aren't necessarily thought of as being sustainable or eco-friendly. You can see that these companies are really taking strides forwards in different ways of offsetting their carbon footprint or impact. So, as you look a little bit closer, the next time you are at your grocery store, you can see that it's much more obvious these days than it was in the past. And that's because, brands are targeting more of their shoppers' beliefs. They want to show that there is a little bit more responsibility now than there was in the past, just because we are heading towards a point of time where perhaps it might not be so easy to help the environment than it was once was.
Right. Okay. Let me share a last example because I think this is a really interesting organization who has shifted shifted how they focus and how they're going to achieve their goal. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with 10 Tree. 10 Tree calls themselves a tree planting organization that sells clothes. They have some great products that are out there, but really it's not the clothes that interests me in this example. 10 Tree has done an incredible job of planting trees with every purchase that is made. But where I think this is really unique and interesting is that they created a digital platform, and that digital platform is called VeriTree. And they wanted to be able to verify where the trees that they were planting were getting done, so that they were keeping their promise and tracking to that. Now, the really interesting thing about this is that by keeping to their sustainable goals of planting trees, they've actually now created this digital platform that is a saleable product being used by other brands. So it's a B2B product to help these other brands verify their own tree planting initiatives and create loyalty with their customers on their sustainability journey. So the verification and the impact allows for us as individuals or the organizations to verify that the trees are being planted where they are and to track the investment over time. Now, they have had major partnerships in this space with Samsung, TELUS, Beyond Meat being some of the examples, and with over 19 million trees being planted. And I think this is a really interesting shift that sometimes we think about sustainability not being the profitable move, whereas this is a really great example of thinking towards your purpose. And their purpose was to plant trees, sell clothing, plant trees. And when you think about it, they've now exponentially magnified their goal by being able to partner with major brands, such as the ones on the screen, to amplify the planting of trees in other capacities and helping these brands achieve their sustainability goals. So this is just a really different way of thinking about how sustainability, or how your purpose around sustainability, could be your X factor. So a really great example of using a platform and putting it into market. I actually, in the hotel that I stayed in Rotterdam, had a sign and a hanger for the door that said, choose not to clean your room, we'll plant a tree. And so hotel chains are actually doing the same, because they've evaluated what the cost associated with cleaning the room, as well as the carbon footprint associated with cleaning the room, versus their ability to then have that money go towards investing in planting trees. So we're starting to see this platform, Veritree, be implemented with multiple partners and the effect that it can have. So go ahead.
So yeah, I'm just going to. So what we're going to do is we're going to launch our last poll here before we.
My apologies.
Yeah, no, that is all good. So I'm going to launch it now. Fantastic. Now, as we're answering this, Ashley and I are bringing but three small parts of the sustainability story. Sustainability isn't something that is easy to solve or easy for everybody to achieve or even approach, just because, in many cases, it can't be profitable, typically. Right. But the idea is that what we wanted to do is break down and introduce a couple of topics that you may or may not know, or at least flesh out a few more ideas so that we can start the conversation towards perhaps some of the challenges that we may be facing in our own organizations. So, we did call it designing a sustainable future, but it also has to be realistic as well. We can have an idea of what the end goal is, but to achieve that, like Ashley mentioned earlier, it takes perhaps baby steps, or even just the planting of small ideas to reach larger ones.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andy. We really appreciate you guys taking the time with us. This topic, as I mentioned at the start, has become near and dear to our hearts, and we're trying to implement as much change as possible that is realistic, but it's not just the physical design. I think it has to come back down towards, what is our purpose as organizations? How are we implementing this as, one of the pillars in who we are as organizations? And the world is moving in this direction. While Europe may be ahead of North America in terms of some of their sustainability initiatives, the EPR is going to happen in all areas and all products. And so for us to be able to have a sustainability passport or a reporting system that allows for us to say, I have designed this with its end of life in consideration, or how it's going to be then built back into the circularity of the future life of that product or material that's being used, is something that's going to come, and we can either choose to start to design that way, or we can wait. And in waiting, it's going to show some challenges, because the world moves very fast. And once it's put in place, we won't want to catch up. We really hope that some of these examples have sparked some ideas, some interest if you do have any questions, we are very open to hear them. And if you'd like to know more about the Sustain platform, which does show you the sustainable elements of your current programs, please let us know. My contact information is on the screen. And as always, so thankful and grateful for the time that you're spending with us today. So we can take questions in the chat if there are. Oh, thank you very much, Alexa. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
the X Factor. It really is interesting. Another great book. And again, I'm a bit of my husband, who's also on. Thanks for showing up. He might get mad at me because of my stacks of books all throughout the house. Another amazing book on X Factor is 10 times is easier than 2 times. And so I'll send out some of these book recommendations that apply to some of these concepts as well. X Factor, sustainability will be an X Factor, not only in your supply chain, but it can show you cost savings, as the 10 tree example showed.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you, guys. We're getting a lot of thank you. We really do appreciate this. Sustainability is, it's not often sexy. And, but what we can do is when we're speaking and having these discussions, we'll have to find out what works for us. Every organization has their own challenges. Every product has their own challenges. But like that Coca-Cola bottle cap example, I'm dorking out a little bit just because it's such a small change, but it changes the user experience. And as a designer, when the cause is genuine, authentic, everything else just comes so much easier, and the story that you can tell is better than you could have ever imagined. So again, thank you, guys. Like, this is a lot of great thank you for all the kind words that are coming in.
Perfect. We will be distributing this as a white paper as well, so please stay tuned if you would like to receive that to share with your internal teams or anybody else who's interested in these topics. Please drop me a line or connect with me on LinkedIn, and we're more than happy to get this out to you, as well as the recording of this presentation. And with that, if there are no questions, I really appreciate all the feedback. We'll give you, maybe an extended lunch so that you guys can then enjoy the remainder of your Tuesday. Great. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, guys.